As you might have seen, the hairdo has changed slightly from the picture. I was the bald guy that was just there. All right. So imagine this. At the end of a grueling program to implement shared service centers and an ERP system with a company that was not exactly happy to make that particular change, our program manager, small type, slightly balding, loud voice, got in your face when you got it wrong, shouted a lot at people, smoked cigars inside and outside the building, said to us, listen, we're going to celebrate actually having completed this project. And he said, you can only come if you bring your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or your date. You know what a date is, right? It's a really serious date. Okay? And so we all show up in this restaurant that evening, and everybody has their significant other with them and their dates, much fun of which was made. And I noticed he was very, very quiet. He was sitting off in a corner, and he was sitting there writing things down. It's very unlike him. And he's a very garrulous, gregarious person, which means it's a very expensive word for saying he liked to talk, just like me. And at a certain point he gets up and he goes, I want to bring out a toast. And the toast is not for the project managers, the project management office, the administration, the experts that are here, the business process experts. I am not toasting you tonight. He became very quiet. And then he said, I want to make a toast to the significant others, the girlfriends, the boyfriends, and the dates. Because ultimately they are what made this project and this program possible. They put up with the impossible deadlines, with their loved ones being gone, with some of the physical exhaustion that we've all gone through. And as I'm telling you, I'm becoming emotional because I'm remembering the moment, because I was one of these project managers that was part of his team, sitting there literally holding back tears and looking at my significant other, who was kind of going, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And he said, he gave that toast, and he said, I also have gifts and surprises, and they are all for your significant others. And that was what the evening was about. Now, that was someone who understood the human factor, right? We may have really great techniques, we may have incredible content to achieve amazing things in a project, but what makes it work, what makes it happen, is the connections between people and the bonds that they forge, the conversations that they have, their human side, let's say. And that's why this theme is so close to my heart. And that's also why this year we decided that that would be the theme, the human factor. Now, isn't it ironic that we call it the human factor? As far as I'm concerned, there is nothing but humanity when you run a project. Okay, something to think about. My name is Thomas Swaak. I'm your guide for this day. I work for Philips Innovation Services. Within that small group called Industry Consulting, and we do projects inside and outside of Philips. It's kind of a wild and wacky world. I enjoy it very much, learn very much, and there's nothing I love better than sharing some of that with you in a setting like this. Okay? Now, for those of you who might want to know what they're in for, as this is about the human factor, I didn't think I could start off any better than with this particular picture. Stress reduction kit, bang head here. I'm sure you felt that way, right? If not, literally banged your head against something. I know I have. So, for those of you who like to know what they're in for, we're going to talk a little bit about what is the human factor. That might be kind of an obvious question to ask, right? You're thinking to yourself, well, I'm sitting here. Dude, we're human. But let's go into it. The state of the human factor, some of the myths and pitfalls, the state of the art, at least from my perspective. I'm curious as to how you're going to react to it. And a bunch of silver bullets, because I know you like practical things. So I left the practical things for last, so you'll actually sit through the next 40 minutes to get to it. The picture on the left is actually a horse that is literally saving the life of the little dog. It's out of real life. And I saw this and I thought, That's who we got to be to one another from time to time when we're in a project or a program. Yeah. Either the horse or the little dog that's driving. I know I'm big, but I felt that way before. And someone would come along and actually put their back underneath me. So, the human factor, what is that? All right, let's have a bit of an integrated view. I'm doing a master's in psychotherapy, and I'm very influenced by the way they define human beings. And human beings are a mess of behaviors, thoughts, feelings, images. They have an image with the things that they do. They notice each other's body signals, like I'm standing up straight right now in front of you. Right? Imagine if I'd started the talk like this. Well, I have a really interesting thing to talk to you about today. How would you have felt? Yeah? This dude's going to be boring. When's the next speaker? Right? So, body language and how you feel in your body as a compass, is incredibly important. And we talk about gut feel in a project. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. There's a social aspect. There's the aspect of how do others see me. Yeah? You may feel that you're doing great, or let's keep it personal, it's not really fair. I may feel I'm doing great with a program management group, right? And then I ask them a simple question. Go away and figure out how you guys see me, how I'm operating, and tell me where I'm doing well and tell me where I could improve. Guess which list is longer? Yeah, the improvement list. There's a reason for that. The oldest part of our brain is geared towards preventing danger. So the reason that we're usually pretty critical and that we tend to focus on the things that need to improve is because the oldest part of our brain kicks in. And because we're Dutch, he says. Is it a cultural thing? It could be. All right, finally, there's even a spiritual aspect. And the spiritual aspect, I guess, within a project management situation could have to do with, your deepest values, your most strongly held convictions about what is right and what is wrong, what should and should not happen. Okay, to me, if we're talking about the human factor, it's this mix of things. And so when you design events or conversations or things to do with the folks that you work with, these aspects need to be taken into account. My glasses are falling off. Hang on. Let me try this. Okay. So, I'm going to put you to work. It's going to be a 5-minute, a few minute dialogue. So find a partner to talk to. It's really difficult here. Turn toward each other and tell each other what's the thing you love most about your life today. Okay? Take me on trust. There is a point for having you talk about this. But I'll tell you when you're done. Go ahead. All right. So, for those of you who are concerned that it takes time to address the human factor, this was 3 minutes out of your life. 3 minutes. That was all. Okay? What'd you talk about? What'd you come up with? What are you loving about your life? It's different to say it in front of a big group, isn't it? Yeah, go on. Grandchildren. There's a world of meaning behind that. Yeah? What else? What else you come up with? Sorry? Independence. Definitely. What else? Meeting people and following up some of these nice contacts. You all had something to talk about, didn't you? Very simple question. What do you love about your life at this moment? Right, there's a point to asking you because how the human factor manifests itself in a team, ideally, right? We're talking about an ideal world. This looks linear, but it's actually a mess of things happening at the same time. It starts with personal bonding. It starts with engaging, right? So if you're kicking off a project, don't start with the content immediately. Ask a question like this. What are you loving about your life at the moment? Do a small little exercise. This was a 3-minute exercise, right? To get people to connect at a human level, a non-content level, a life level. Okay? If you ask me, that's where it starts. If that is actually taken care of from the beginning, chances are you might not fight as much and as hard a little bit down the road. You will fight. right? Everybody knows norming, forming, forming, storming, norming, performing, right? Everybody's heard of that model, right? That journey you take every time you form a team. So you are going to storm, there are going to be fights. But if you start on a personal level, you pay some attention to that, go back to the teams that you love the most. Weren't those the people that you knew the best? That you had a personal bond with? Okay, you've got your poker faces on. Is that a yes or a no? Pretty much? Yeah? Let's have a show of hands. Strength of a team. Is that in personal bonds or professional bonds? Personal bonds. Show of hands. Okay. All right, now I'm less worried. Right. There's also professional bonding. We're all different. Some of us like to bond personally. Some of us like to bond over content. So that is a side that needs to be shown. And there needs to be an opportunity for people to be able to show what they're bringing to the team. Yeah. So one of the simplest exercises I do after a kickoff with a team, we sit in a circle like you used to do in kindergarten, right? No tables, no phones, no computers, and everybody answers 4 simple questions. How do I see my role? What do I bring to the team? What gives me energy? And what sucks energy? What are energy detractors? Those 4. And all you do is have people share. So no commentary, no criticisms. It's a great way to mix the first 2. And in essence, as you go into a project and you get to know one another, you start to size yourself. Right? We're different in front of different people. Yeah? Some people I'm really relaxed around, other people make me hyper, other people drive me nuts. Yeah? And some people make me really quiet because they're such incredible experts, right? So you kind of rediscover yourself as you're forming a team. So sizing the self is an important aspect. Reflecting a little bit on who am I in this team? What role am I taking? Where is that going? Then there's sizing the team. So I would say every once in a while sit with the team to reflect on not did we get the timing right? Did we get the deliverables right? Yada, yada, yada. This is our normal work, right? No, the question is, are we communicating okay? Yeah? If somebody's feeling out of it, what happens? Yeah? I was with a group yesterday where we did this setting of, how do you see your role? What value do you bring to the team? What sucks energy, etc. And one of the people spoke up and said to the leader of the team, you're really smart and you come across really powerful, and that sometimes makes me scared to speak up. Now that's a heck of a thing to say, right? And the leader, to my surprise, said, well, I recognize that. That's my fallback scenario when things get to be too much for me. And then explained that she'd recently lost her husband and she'd been in her fallback scenario for quite a while. And there were tears. Now, I don't know about your experience, but tears is one of the most uncomfortable things that can happen in a project group. Nobody actually knows what to do, right? And what to do is really simple. Let the person cry. And when they're done crying and they've caught their breath, continue, which is what we did. Right? And you felt something shift in that team. Because everybody had been experiencing the power of this person and was a little bit afraid. And later on, that person said to the team, well, what I feel is you guys stuff my backpack and you say good luck. And the team's response was, come into the team. Okay, a little slice of life on team dynamics and how to bond, where you're sizing the team. And it's very useful, even though it may feel that everybody's doing their thing, to pay a little bit of attention. Yeah? I ask you guys to take 3 minutes out of your life to bond personally. It doesn't take that much time. For those of you who are thinking, yeah, that's not a deliverable and I can't really finance that. I think it too. Sometimes I'm stuck on a very tight budget. Then I invite everybody to my house on Saturday and we eat a lot. Okay. Sizing the organization, you do the same with the stakeholders. Yeah? There are points that you plan in where you sit down and simply discuss a couple of key aspects about how you're interacting, how people are feeling, where fears and worries are, etc. And ultimately, I think also the human factor is about collecting silver bullets. Silver bullet is something that you can use in almost any situation. Okay, that's my private model. I figured I'd share it with you. It is how I work with teams. I'm often called into teams when things have hit the fan, when they're stuck. And I get this huge content story about, we've got to make so many millions and we have this and this content and you got to push us through the content. And that's not where the problem is. The problem is usually the human factor. Alrighty, so what's the state of the human factor? Read the left one first, it made me laugh. Yeah, being a project manager is easy, it's like riding a bike, except the bike is on fire, you're on fire, everything is on fire, and you're in hell. Okay, I recognize some days out of project and program management, right? I think the fact that we call these what we need to be able to interact as human beings soft skills is a misnomer. Soft skills are hard skills, they hit hard. Yeah? Somebody who completely autistically chases their deliverable and doesn't give a damn about what anybody else thinks gets disconnected from the team. And at a certain point gets depressed and is asking themselves, why am I depressed? I'm delivering my deliverable. Well, maybe it's because you didn't talk to anybody for 6 months. This is a case out of my actual practice. I actually got that question, why am I feeling so bad? I'm delivering. I said, okay, who do you talk to from time to time in the team? I don't know. So when's the last time that you actually spoke to someone? 6 months ago. Is it quantifiable? I am really against surveys. You might not be, but I am. The risk with surveys is, we're a bunch of smart people. We work with facts, with deliverables, with analyses. It's really easy to get caught up in the math of it. Yeah, well, this went up 2.2 points, so we're actually doing better. You know, this stuff gets known and it gets scoped and it gets solved in human conversation, in dialogue. Yeah? So having representative groups and actually having a conversation is usually far more effective than doing a survey and then showing, well, you know, we're about a 3 on a scale of 5, so we're pretty happy. Yeah? And then you look at the rate of people leaving the company, that's knocked up 5%, right? And all kinds of other indicators are showing you that things are going wrong. So for me, this is a plea. If you want to find out the state of the art in terms of the human factor, figure something out with representative groups and go and talk to them. The conversations don't take that long, right? And they deliver immediately what's going right and what's going wrong. We all know that the client pays for the deliverables, but the deliverables run on human fuel. So what's your fuel budget? Not going to fill that in for you. I'm going to leave you with that as something to think about. What's my fuel budget? What do I put in? Okay. So, find a partner to talk again, a different one. So talk to someone else, mess it up a little. Sit closely together and tell each other, what do you find most difficult about your current project in terms of the human factor? Okay? Go ahead. I wanted to leave you with something practical, because it makes sense to have some practical stuff after this gamboling through conversations and all kinds of thinking about the human factor. I hope you can use some of this. I hope I made you kind of sit up and say to yourself, it's kind of nuts, but I'm going to try this one thing. If you walk away with one thing from this, I'm a happy camper. Because you're catching, I think, what makes programs succeed, and that's the human factor. Thank you very much.